Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of Wellness in the Workplace. My name is Mmatshepo and I am your host. Wellness in the Workplace is a podcast that aims to equip new and experienced professionals with the tools and insights that they need to navigate challenging workplace dynamics. And in today's episode, we're talking all things rest. This is something that I want to prioritize in my life and be more intentional about. And I have with me in studio someone who I regard as an advocate of rest and someone who really just prioritizes holistic well-being and holistic living in different facets of her life, just based on what I see on your social media pages. Her name is Mmatshepo Oganne, and she is the Deputy Director of Communications and Stakeholder Management at the City of Johannesburg. Welcome to Wellness in the Workplace.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you well rested?
No,
You're
not today. Not this week, which is ironical because we're talking about rest.
Yes.
But the past month has been a big challenge, and I suppose a test in what I think or I believe in. Or value.
Yes.
I started a new job in Feb, so it's been anything but restful, but good, very good.
That's good. That's good.
So actually, weird story. On the day that you inboxed me to ask if I'd like to be on this podcast, was my first day on the job.
Oh my God.
So I was like, really, me? And before that, I mean, I'm sure we'll speak about it some more, but before that, for an entire 3 years, I was at home.
Yes.
So I was either freelancing or consulting or not working, full-time mothering. So, I mean, I think when you are in that place, it's much easier, you're in control of your time. Resting and all these things, it's much easier. And now it's like the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah. And you're being challenged to put what you believe in to the test, essentially, right?
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. But I'm good. I'm very good.
No, that's good. That's good. So let's get into a bit more of just your, maybe career background, just to give our listeners and our viewers an idea of who Mmatshepo is, and how you even got to a place where you started prioritizing rest and being so passionate about advocating for rest in the manner that you do.
Sure. Okay, cool. So career background first. I'm a journalist by training.
Yes.
That's kind of how we met, but not really.
Yes.
So I studied journalism. After studying journalism, went straight into radio. And I mean, anyone who's, I think any area of journalism, whether you're in print, broadcasting, you work extremely long hours.
Yeah, we definitely do.
So on some days I'd work from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. But I mean, I was young. I loved it. Passionate about, everything. So cool. That was great. Left that job, went to another commercial radio station. And I think there it was worse. Like it was, the hours were crazier. So we'd work like 13 hours. And I remember in 2016 or something, it was election year. And the hours were generally crazy, but that year it was on another level. So I burnt out. I didn't know at the time. I couldn't put words to it. I remember when I resigned, my editor called me in and she's like, what's happening?
Going on?
And I was like, I don't know. I just bawled out and I was crying and I was like, I don't know. I just can't handle any of this. And she was like, okay, cool. What can we do? So cut down all my hours, and I was working 2 days a week. So I was working on weekends only.
Yes.
So I took time out, went to go rest, I suppose. Stayed away for like a year. I left journalism for a bit, and I was like, okay, cool. Let me try something else. Tried governance. Worked in government. Then the hours were, it was 9 to 5 normal like everyone, but there wasn't much happening. Got bored with that, so I was like, okay, cool. So clearly I need something in between.
Yes.
Left that, long story, but left my government job. That's kind of when I started freelancing and consulting and just trying out things.
Different
I went into
things.
business, closed down that business.
Yeah.
I did everything. I'm a very multi-passionate person, so I'm into different things, and my passions change as I go and I evolve. So that's kind of my background. I don't really like to limit myself to say this is who I am and this is where I'm going, because honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
In 2 years' time, I could be telling you that I am going to study medicine or something.
Yes.
It's very possible with me.
So ever evolving, ever changing.
Yes. I think it's very important for us to just really pay attention to ourselves and where we are at every point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I have tried to do a lot. Is to listen to myself.
To yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So right now, working in government, working in a very busy political office. Every day is different. There's a lot of moving points. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did actually. But I just wanted to go more into how you became intentional about rest, because from what you just said, it was almost reactive. Your body forced you to get into a space where you had to rest and you had to take time out. So how did you get to a place where you became more proactive about resting, and just more intentional about what that means to you? Yeah.
So like I said, this journey for me, when I look back, and obviously when you're going through things, you aren't able to articulate it at the time. So my journey dates back to 2016, like I said. After I resigned, after I was like, I don't know what's happening, I'm just really exhausted.
Yes.
So then what followed after that?
Was it just physical exhaustion or just like your mind?
It was everything. It was
spirit,
mind, body, it was everything. I was just exhausted. So it started then. So after that, I was like, okay, cool. So Monday to Friday, I'm not working. I'm at home. My husband's at work. I have this time. I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And I couldn't do much because, sometimes you think you just need to sleep more, you need to work less, but it's actually like a whole lot of stuff. So the years that followed after that, I was just sick. It was one thing after the next. How long do you have? So it was a whole lot of things. I got sick. At some point, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. My skin, I think the first signs that I had was just my skin. I mean, I normally have acne-prone skin, but it got to a point where I could literally feel every part of my body like crawling. And, I would have these terrible breakouts. And it was just bad. My brain felt foggy. When you feel like you can't think. You're not sure what you're thinking. You can't think.
I know that feeling,
and it carried on for a while. So it was just different. It just manifested itself in different things. And I guess that's also where I learned that, you have to listen to your body. Because it was giving me signals. I'd go to the doctor. I went to different doctors, gynaes, specialist gynaes. I went to neurologists. I went to all kinds of doctors. And that's when in 2019, I got diagnosed with the brain tumor. And that's kind of, I think in all of that, I'm a very solutions-orientated person. So I would always be like, okay, what's happening? I can't just take, for example, Oratane medication for my skin. Yes, it will clear up my skin, but whatever's happening is still happening. I can't just do this to mask that. Okay, you're not having your period. You haven't had your period in so many months. You go to a gynae, they tell you, oh yeah, you can take a contraceptive. Your periods will come back or something like that. It was always that for me. So I don't know how at the time, but you become so desperate for answers that you're not getting. I just started doing research, and somehow everything, and somehow I just stumbled on alternative health and alternative ways of healing. And holistic ways of healing. And that's kind of where my journey started. Started with a walk. My husband and I were speaking the other day, like how, at the beginning when you're starting, like we started by walking. And we could barely like make what's this, a kilometer running.
Yes,
so we're like run to the top of the hill, then we're like walking. And I mean, now it's been years where, you know, we've built this lifestyle, and things are so different. But we just knew, I just knew that, okay, I need to do something. I need to start somewhere. I need to do something different. So we just started. I started running, started walking, started eating better, and all these things. And somehow when you're looking for these answers and you're praying and you're asking God, He gives you the solutions. In bits and pieces.
And you have to listen, obviously, to receive that too, right? Okay, no, I'm with you. And then just in terms of this mindset of associating rest to productivity, right? Because I think I've observed that there's typically a tendency to say, okay, I'm resting so that I can be more productive, as opposed to people seeing rest as a form of productivity in and of itself. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that you rest so that you can be more productive, or are you resting because it's a way to thank your body, it's a way to recharge, to recoup? So what's your intentions really behind resting?
Oh, I like that. To thank your body. Yeah, I like that. For me, so I'm a believer. God says we must rest. He rested. I don't think God rested because He needed to recharge. God rested because He just needed to rest. And we do think of rest in that way. But I don't think we necessarily need to rest so that we can be productive.
Yes.
We tend to center our lives a lot around productivity and getting things done and work and output. But I don't think rest is a gift. That we give ourselves, that we give those around us. But it's not necessarily a ticking of boxes. It's just being. It's just letting go and surrendering. And I found that a lot of the times when I am not resting when I need to is not necessarily, it's a struggle that I'm having with surrendering. So yes, you haven't gotten what you thought you needed to get done for that week or for that day. But if it's time for you to close your laptop and rest, then it's time for you to close your laptop and rest. Even on Sundays, yes, maybe you want to do something for your side hustle or record some videos and whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. But I think it's surrender. It's to say, you know what, whether things are done or not done, this is where I leave it, and this is where I hand it over to God. I think it's gratitude. I like what you said about thanking your body, but also just thanking God, and being mindful of the fact that He's the one who is the creator of everything, and if He could rest and if He calls us to rest, then there's something in that.
I like that. So let's talk about some of your resting rituals and practices. Do you have different resting rituals for your body, for your mind, for your spirit? What do you do? Especially after a long week of work. And now that I think you are in a space where you have to now more intentionally integrate rest into your schedule. So what do you typically do?
I'm figuring it out right now.
I'll
and
be before
honest.
this?
But generally, it depends what I'm feeling like, you know. Sometimes we'll be taking a nap. It's not always taking a nap. Sometimes we'll be going for a walk. I've kind of stopped running right now because I don't feel like it.
And it's you listening to your body.
So I walk a lot. I go for hikes. Like this morning, I went for a hike. I think food for me is the biggest form of resting.
Please expand on that. Because that's interesting. I've never heard that. I've never heard somebody describing food as a form of rest.
The food that we eat, it affects our bodies a lot. Our diet affects I think of everything. a lot of it affects your mind, your body, your spirit. So I'm very mindful of what I eat. Yeah, I'm just very.
I mean, you have your own garden, like you grow your own.
I did until recently, but I'm going to start again.
Okay.
Yes. So yes,
yes.
I do like to grow my own food
Yes.
as much as I can and stuff, and just I think also the process of preparing a meal that's nourishing, that you
It's a form
feel
of
like
rest.
it is. It's a anything that allows you to just like stop everything, pause everything, and focus on what you are doing right now, and be mindful of what you're doing right now. So yeah, food has been part of my story for the past couple of years.
Yes.
And yeah, it's really just allowed me to heal, but to also just pause and be mindful and to take care of myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then social rest, because I also know that you're very big on social media breaks.
No. Oh, yes. Oh, I thought you meant people. I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I am an introvert, so people don't generally energize
you. Yes.
Yeah. So last year actually, I had, because I create content on social media sometimes.
Yes. No, a lot of the time. Every day.
Sometimes.
I look forward to your stories.
So last year I realized that I was again exhausted. And I was like, okay, but I have free time. I don't do much. I mean, I control my time, but why am I so tired and anxious?
Yes.
I was extremely anxious.
Yes.
So I just deleted all my social media, didn't even say anything to anyone, and I went offline for about 6-7 months or something.
Sure.
And that was the best time of my life. Because it just simplifies things. You don't have to, when you're eating, you don't have to think about, oh, maybe I should create content. Oh, when I do this. But also because there's so many moving pieces on social media, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a burden to a large extent. I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be really mindful of how the people we're interacting with, their energies, their thoughts. Sidebar. It was so weird this week. I was laughing at all the reactions to the Oscars and people going on about this and that and their opinions. And I was like, really? You guys really all believe all these things that you're saying? Because in the morning it was one thing, and then, then there was, international commentary, and on the radio people were saying things. And then suddenly people's opinions change. And I was like, this is weird.
Yes.
Because it also, what's the word? It blocks us from listening to ourselves.
Yes.
Because my first instinct was like, good.
Yeah.
It's good that he
I
got
thought the same thing.
smacked. Whether it was
the same thing.
Staged or not staged is another story, but I was like, good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And based on your opinion on violence and again, another place we can have conversations around all of that, separately.
Exactly.
But I was, I was just that example. It's like, okay, your first instinct is that good, but after 5 minutes, because someone said something,
you change your stance.
You're changing your stance. But that's just a random example. It happens a lot. Maybe you don't like running, but there's a trend of people running on social media, so you're gonna run.
Yeah. No,
even though you can feel that your body is, burnt out, because that can also happen. Yeah. Just because people get refreshed when they run does not mean that you're going to get refreshed when you run.
That's true.
Yes, it's good to try. Social media is great for having that platform where, we can see how different people do things and live their lives. But different things work for different people. So it's not to say that you must create this thing that's socially acceptable. So I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of wanting to be accepted on social media. Yeah. So even unconsciously, we just adopt a way of doing things. So I think that creating that space for yourself to unplug and just live a simple life, to just do simple things. We have started this on Sundays. We try at least 5 hours where we don't have social media, electronics, nothing, where we just switch off and we spend time either by ourselves, with family, church, and all these things. but it just allows us to really just detox
Yes.
from those opinions
Yes.
and
Yes.
things
Yes.
before we get back into it, I suppose.
And I find that for me, during the times when I do take a break from social media, which is a form of social rest, right? I get a more clearer perspective on things. I also enjoy like my process of creativity or creating things because there isn't that pressure that you have. I mean, with posting something on social media and somewhat, I guess, expecting validation of what you posted, because that's what we do, right? Yeah. Whether you are evolved or not, I think it is a byproduct of being active on social media to seek that form of validation to say that yes, what you've posted or what you've shared is actually good, and it translates obviously in the form of likes, in the form of engagement, comments, etc. But I do like the fact that you are intentional about that type of social rest, and I think also just in the workplace as well, just unplugging from your
Daily.
colleagues is important. Just unplugging from your colleagues sometimes is important. Yeah. And for me, that brings me to the next question around setting boundaries. I mean, you are in a new space right now. You haven't obviously been in like a work environment where you've had to work very closely with people. Yeah. How do you think you're going to set boundaries around resting? Firstly, boundaries within yourself, so that you know when to stop and to take a break, and also boundaries with your colleagues, your manager, and any partners. How do you think you're going to do that while still maintaining your rest?
That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out now.
Yes.
I think with myself and within myself in terms of boundaries, I'm very clear. I mean, I do keep on, I'm constantly discovering new boundaries that I have.
Yes.
So I think with myself, my family, I'm good in terms of that. But now the challenge is, like you said, new working environment. It's a very fast-paced environment. Sometimes a building will burn. Like 2 weeks ago, we had like a fire somewhere, and
where was this?
At
CBD?
One of our entities, at our market. So obviously, this is Friday night at 11.
Yes.
I just picked up my kid. It's obviously I'm tired.
Yes. And being in comms, you need
crisis
management. Exactly.
So it's actually what I'm trying to figure out right now. So in answering you, I don't know. I don't know right now.
Okay.
I don't know right now. But I think just for someone who maybe, whether you're new or not new in your working environment and you're trying to figure out, your boundaries and stuff, I think it's important for you to first check in with yourself in terms of, okay, cool. Fine, who am I? But what are my boundaries?
Yeah.
If I don't know myself, then it's pretty hard to figure out what my boundaries are.
Yes.
Because for example, I'm an introvert. So for me, I don't really like people being too up in my space.
In your space.
So it will look different to someone who's a bit
extroverted.
more, yes.
And social.
So I think it's just important for you to figure out who you are and what matters to you. My family matters a lot to me. My son, time with my husband. So it's you have to kind of move things around to kind of see what works for you. And what doesn't, where you can negotiate and where you cannot. So right now I've had to negotiate a lot of, okay, outside of my working hours, I'm going to have to do some work. But that also means inside of my working hours, I'm going to have to rest. So sometimes that means if I'm working from home and I feel like, okay, I need to go take a walk, or I need to nap, or I need to make food so that I can eat, then I will do that. So I am always trying to, right now, I'm trying to always find those, that time, pockets of time, of rest in between. Sometimes it's just closing my office door for a few minutes, just to, recenter, whatever it is, whether I'm listening to a podcast, watching something on YouTube, calling my mom, whatever, chatting to my husband. I just try and do that. But another thing I think for me that has been constant and consistent is my morning routine.
Yes.
But not in the YouTube sense.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I might
just
be
woke
guilty of
up
having a
and-
morning routine video on YouTube, but yeah.
No,
Anyway.
no. I love morning routines. I love
Yes,
morning
yes.
routines, what I eat in a day.
Yes.
But I just mean in the, whimsical.
Yes, yes.
Because,
Stress-free.
stress-free.
life. Yeah.
Because reality is that in the morning,
You
if
are
you're like me,
stressed.
I wake up like after the 10th alarm. So I don't have that much time. So I try and give myself, even if it's just 30 minutes to an hour at most. If I get an hour, I'm lucky. I mean, I have a 2-year-old who mostly wakes up before me.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm up, I need to attend to him, but I try and attend to myself as well. So even if it's 30 minutes, I go for a walk. 30 minutes, I stretch. 30 minutes, I do something. I have to do 30 minutes. So I think for me, that's one way right now that I can, surely say, okay, I'm making time for myself. I'm making time to rest.
Yes.
And 30 minutes makes a huge
It does,
difference.
actually.
I'll
It
leave the
does.
house very grumpy because my toddler's been pulling at me and asking for food and this because the moment he's up, he's like, okay, you are attending to me.
Yes.
So I think a morning routine, like a solid 30 minutes, an hour, if you have 3 hours in the morning.
Or if you have to wake up earlier.
If you have to wake up earlier, that's even better.
Yeah.
That's like my goal,
Yeah.
is to, ultimately be 5 a.m. club. But right now, that doesn't mean before I get to 5 a.m. club, I'm not going to take care of myself in the morning. So, that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
No, I'm with you. So that brings me to the next question around your thoughts on having a work-life balance. Do you think there's such a thing? Because in my view, I think that we have been sold the dream that having a work-life balance is a thing that you can consistently achieve. I do think that at different stages of your life, something does take priority over the other. And so we become hard on ourselves if we then don't achieve that, right? So in your view, do you think that there is such a thing as having a work-life balance? Also, what is it, actually? Let's start there.
I was about to ask, what is
it?
I think you can have a balance, but it won't be like an equilibrium. I think normally when we think of balance, we're thinking, 50-50.
Yes,
you are putting in all the work, at work, and at home you are present, and that's not realistic.
It's not.
It's just not realistic. As a woman, as a mom, I have a lot more responsibilities, than, I don't know, someone else who has a different life.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have to, again, look at yourself and your life and what is important to you, what is a priority and what is not. I think for each of us, our health, ourselves, physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health should be a priority.
Yes.
Right. And then everything else you need to negotiate. The reality is that you have 24 hours in a day, you have 7 days in a week.
We do have limited time. Yeah.
What can you do and what can you not do? A simple exercise of actually looking at a clock and having a calendar and slotting in all these things. Okay, if you're saying you're going to be 5 a.m. club, then you slot it in, and what happens after that, and then after that, and then to actually realize if all these things that you are talking about are realistic. Not just that, but then also putting it into action. Try it out. Yeah. See if it's actually possible.
Yeah.
I think it's just about figuring out what your priorities are, and then just wing it from there. I mostly just wing it. Some days I am rocking at work, and other days I guess rocking at home. And at all these different times, something has to give. There are days when I get home and I can only spend 20 minutes with my son and he goes to sleep, and it sucks, but I can't change it. I can't change it on those days because there's something else that needs my time. But I think we also do tend to have to prioritize work more than anything else.
Yes.
And I get it. I mean, you're at work 9 to 5. And some of these people who employ us are very entitled to our time, even
time.
outside of work hours. So it's difficult again to set those boundaries and say don't call me after, which I think in a general like working environment where nothing is burning after 6 after
It's
4 o'clock
reasonable.
when you knock off. It's very reasonable to say I will not look at my emails, I will not respond to calls and all these things because it's not my responsibility, right? So I think it's really about that. It's about figuring, what were we talking about again?
We're talking about work-life balance.
Yes. That. It's about figuring out your responsibilities.
Yes.
I mean your priorities. And just they change.
And structuring your life according to that.
And structuring your life according to that.
So I think, for me, I definitely see it as a dream that's been sold to us.
It is.
And I mean, we just go on and say, work-life balance, not actually realizing that already by virtue of us being at work more than anything else, it's already skewed to us doing work most of the time, and it's also just like similar to the notion of being a super mom or a super woman. It's the same thing. It's the same thread, right? So and then in terms of what people can look out for when their bodies are indicating that it's time to rest, what do you think those telling signs are, just based on your experience? Because I think a person can experience brain fog but not really understand that that's related to rest, or someone, like you mentioned, like your skin breaking out, for example, but not relating that to rest. So what are some of the other signs that someone can actually practically look at and say, okay, if I'm experiencing this, maybe it is time for me to stop before my body makes me stop? I think even if you're not having the signs, firstly, we all need to start thinking of rest as like a big part of our lives, as much as we think of like career and productivity and all these things that we want to achieve. Like one of my goals is to really achieve rest. It's to do as little as possible. Yes, you've said that a couple of times.
Yeah, because I don't have a desire to really do a lot. I think we generally just have this, desire to be super mommy, and my husband knows this, that I'm not really into all of that. I would appreciate as much support as I can get from everyone. Like, so I think we all need to rest. We all need to start thinking, if we're not ready, of ways that, every hour, every day, every week, we are constantly thinking of ways that we can unplug. We can rest in just different ways. I sometimes find myself even exhausted of spending money. I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we are again. I must pay
my
this.
money needs to rest.
I must do this, I must do that. And that's also why on Sundays we really just try to not spend money, think about money, plan money, all these things, because there are different things that exhaust us and trigger certain things that exhaust us. So I think just starting from a place of figuring out how you are constantly aware of, I know people who believe in the numbers signaling that, okay.
Yes. 11.
Yes, 11, 10, 10. And it's a cute way of remembering that, okay, every time I see this, and it'll happen because you're already putting it out there. So when I see this, for example, I'm going to 5 minutes.
Just
5
minutes.
To just calm down. So I think we all need that constantly, ways that we can rest. But what are signals or signs that people can use? For me, I found that my body and my mood. If I'm annoyed and grumpy, or I'm starting to feel like I'm getting annoyed and irritable, I know that, okay, go for a walk, go nap, go take a shower. I love water, so go do something. Just it's time now. If you're scrolling for too long and you're even getting to the bottom, and it's like you've seen everything,
and you're refreshing,
you've seen everything, go take a break. You clearly have a lot of time. Take 5 minutes, do something. So I think our body, the body is an extreme. It's I think by the point where you get into your body, maybe you're constipated, you are breaking out, you losing weight, you're gaining weight excessively, then you are you might need professional assistance as well. So we don't want to get to that point where there's depression and anxiety. that's like right at the end.
Yeah.
So before you want to get there, I think I would, like I said, daily.
Integrated into your day-to-day routine. Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be something elaborate and fancy, and the simple things. I found that holistic health and holistic well-being really is just about focusing on simplifying things. I mean, we can get to the point of CMOS gel and the fancy powders and collagen and all these amazing things at a later point if you're really into it as well. But I think also just as an African, like when I think back to growing up and how we did things, and I think back to like, fine, I guess, childhood is mostly nostalgic. But when I think back to when I was my healthiest and happiest, it was just simple things.
Yeah.
It was just simple things, the sun hitting your face, swimming in the river or in a swimming pool or whatever. So I think just going back to that place and just being simple things.
Yeah, simple things. I like that. Simplify it. Yeah. And then just in, closing off this specific topic, how do you think people can let go of feelings around guilt and shame for resting? Because I think because we live in a society that encourages productivity so much, rest usually comes with feelings of guilt instead of pleasure. Instead of restoration. So how can people just change their mindset, to just move from feeling guilty about taking time for yourself?
Sure. That's a good question. I think sometimes even if you're feeling guilty, just move through it. Locate why you're feeling guilty, why you feel the need to overextend yourself. I'm learning that I don't need to do a lot to achieve a lot.
Ooh, love that. I really do.
Yeah. And I think, especially when we're starting out and we're younger, we're trying to figure out what am I supposed to do, because you learned all these things in varsity. And then maybe you get into these jobs where they're having you do all these things.
And you have to prove yourself.
And you're proving yourself.
Value.
Exactly.
Yes,
so I think that's kind of where these things come from. And you're feeling guilty that you're not reading your emails and preparing for the week on a Sunday, because maybe that's what it takes to get a promotion. No, I don't think so. I don't think it takes a lot to really get a promotion. Look around, see who's getting a promotion. Are they doing a lot? They probably are not. So I think it's just about being mindful of that. Especially in corporate. My husband works in corporate, and I'm always telling him that it's a very tricky game that is being played in corporate, because people are being made to believe things that are not a reality.
That's true.
And that is putting a lot of pressure on people to constantly be proving. So locate that guilt, locate that shame.
Why is it there?
Why am I feeling this way? And work through it. It takes time to work through certain things. But I just really, I don't think it takes a lot to achieve a lot.
I love that so much. I really, really do. Okay, cool. Let's get straight into our bonus questions, just in closing. So what podcast, video, book have you listened to or read that has shifted your perspective about work?
About work? The Bible. You're right. I've read a couple of books, and they're all great. I mean, I'm sure if you Google, you'll probably find them. But for me, no book has changed my life and my perspective on anything, and transformed my life in the way that I do things, like the Bible. And another podcast, though, I don't know if it's related to work, but it's related to being and spirituality. Journey Kwantu, amazing podcast. Please listen to it. When you're ready. It's an amazing podcast. It's on spirituality. It's by Vusi Nganda. It's on spirituality, and he really just gets into things. Listen to it.
Okay.
It's amazing.
I'll give it a listen. Yeah. And what does wellness in the workplace look like for you?
Wellness in the workspace for me is being yourself.
Okay.
It's very important to be yourself. Even if you're quirky, you're weird, you're introverted, you don't have to be anything else. If you were meant to be something else, God would have created you to be that.
Yep.
So be yourself. If you're not sure what that is, take time, figure it out, ask God. He will show you. it's about that for me. It's about being yourself, knowing what works for you and what doesn't, negotiating those boundaries in a professional way, but also being very firm. If you are closing your laptop at 4:00 and that's your boundary, then that's your boundary.
Yeah.
Stick to it. You might have to communicate it a couple of times. It doesn't mean that you have to renegotiate it. It's about that. It's about also knowing that, you know what, I'm not totally in control, and my career might not go the way that I've anticipated it. It's also standing up for yourself, speaking up for yourself, and also walking away when you need to. You know, I think we sometimes hold on for no absolute reason. Yes, there are certain times when we need to stick it through, and I've had to, and I'll be honest, I've walked away a lot of those times.
Yes.
But there's also, it's also good to walk away sometimes when you need to walk away.
And knowing when is the time to walk away is also key.
Knowing when is the time to walk away. It's about imperfection. It's about messy. It's about a whole lot of things. But really, I think for me, the most important thing is about being true to who I am.
No, that's good. That's good. I was actually going to ask you what you would tell your younger self about working in corporate South Africa or just in a corporate setting. But I think you've actually just covered it with that previous question, unless if there is anything you want to really expand on that you would have told your younger self about just working.
I'm not sure if I can actually say I've worked in corporate South Africa.
Yeah, so we can't say, actually you've worked quite a bit, but not specifically in corporate.
Yeah.
So
But if it was, well, corporate or not, I think I'd just say there are no rules. They tell you that there are rules, but there are no rules. You are constantly negotiating your own rules. So I'd say just go with it.
I like that there are no rules.
No,
okay.
we told there are, but there are no rules.
Everything is really made up, right? And it is about what you negotiate at the end of the day.
It's hard, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. It definitely is. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being yourself.
Thank you for having me.
And just changing our perspective on just work and rest and how we approach that. I think this is actually a valuable conversation because I haven't heard a lot of conversations go in this direction, to be honest. So thank you for your insights and input. And thank you for tuning in. I will see you on the next episode. My name is Mmatshepo Oganne. Bye-bye.